Okay, so welcome back to my channel. Okay, this is going to be like a recap of Striking Out Season 1, Episode 1. Okay, so Tara and Eric are engaged, and both Tara and Eric works for Eric's father's firm. It's a huge firm that represents a lot of big name people, as far as corporations and things of that nature. And so it opens with Tara at her bachelorette party. It's just a small group of friends at a restaurant. Her mother was there, and after a few drinks and some laughs, she's trying to push mom out the door so her and her friends could kind of let their hair down. But after she gets mom out the door and into a cab, she decides to jump in the cab herself and go meet up with Eric so that she can get some nookie. Unfortunately, when she arrived at the apartment, she walked in on Eric already getting some. So you can imagine that whole scene. They were really into it. Of course, it was so much so that they didn't even hear the key in the door. And she stood there for a good 5 seconds before Eric realized that she was there. And of course, the whole scene, it was extremely dramatic. The lady jumped off Eric, and it was unfortunately somebody she knew. Not somebody she was friends with, but she was a colleague, someone who's also an attorney. And, Eric is trying to convince her that it wasn't anything, it was just sex. And, it was a one-time thing, it's never happened before. And, of course, she is sitting there devastated. She's asking her, do you love her? He was like, no, of course not. It was just a one-time thing. I don't care. It was meaningless, So you can see him it's kind of slow motion at this point, very dramatic. Him kind of running behind her as she's leaving the apartment. Them kind of having a tussle. She's trying to get away and leave. He doesn't want her to leave. She takes her shoes off. She flings the fake veil at him. I'm like, girl, why are you throwing that at him? And I don't remember if she threw her shoes at him or she just took them. I think she did throw. Either way, she ended up shoeless, walking the streets all night, basically. The next scene is basically, it's morning, and she goes to the office. She kind of sneaks in, still wearing the same thing, barefoot, just filthy. She's been crying all night. So her mascara and everything is running. And people probably didn't think, people kind of gave her the side eye. But then again, I think a lot of people knew that her bachelorette party was the night before. So they probably think, oh, okay, she probably, party shut the place down, right? So, but she wanted to sneak into her office to kind of clean out her desk and grab. She had to change her clothes in her office and shoes. And she wanted to get in and out before Eric got to work. And so while she's trying to gather all her stuff and this hysteria, like she's grabbing things and throwing stuff in a bag, she looks over and she sees Ray. And so Ray is her client. He was set to, she's supposed to represent him in a trial. It's like a revocation of bail or something, or parole violation or some kind of situation like that. So he helps her get her stuff together and get out of the office because he needs her to get to court to represent him, to hopefully get him off. They end up going to this local coffee shop that is managed by a guy named Pete. Pete seems like a really cool guy. And he allows Tara to kind of leave her stuff there while she goes to court to represent Ray. So she goes into the bathroom, changes her clothes, try to get make herself presentable. And then she goes to court. Luckily, she was successful. And because they wanted him held because there was some fear that because he was trying to get a passport that he was trying to flee. And so she was able to get him off. And so they ended up back at the while she was representing him, Eric of course knew that she was representing him that morning. So he was in court, and he tried to talk to her, but she just wasn't ready to deal with it or talk to him. And so they get back to the coffee shop, and she receives a call from Vincent. It's an older guy. I don't know if he's considered, he's an attorney, but I don't know if he works for the courts or I think he works for the courts. I'm not sure. But he's an attorney and he's working on this big case. And basically he had a client who I don't know if they were friends or whatever the case. But anyway, he basically called Terry like, I have a guy for you that needs some help. And so at this point, he doesn't know anything that's gone on, and that basically she left the firm. And so she gave him the address, basic, and they came to the came to the coffee shop, and of course Vincent is kind of like, what is going on? What is this situation? So he basically goes in the back office and basically like, what's going on here? And she explains to him what's going on, the whole situation with Eric, and she kind of left the firm for now. It's kind of up in the air whether or not she's going to go back, but right now she's, she's working basically out of that space. And so she meets with a guy. He's a local broadcaster, and basically he kind of got himself involved in some, I guess, debaucherous activities, and it was recorded without his knowledge, and it was released to the media. And so they basically needed Tara to be able to get some type of injunction to keep the videos from being released, and also to pull down the videos that the site actually had up. And so you can kind of tell that he wasn't exactly being forthcoming, but I hope that I didn't just cover my mic. That he wasn't exactly being forthcoming, but she did what she can do, gather the information she needed to gather. She had him sign whatever paperwork he needed to sign. And but the thing is, they didn't know the source of the video. So even though they can go through the process of having the publication take the footage down and basically get an injunction to have have it taken down, and even get win a monetary judgment because of the violation of privacy, because he didn't know that he was being recorded. So they still don't know where it was produced. So she enlists Meg. Meg is a private investigator that was referred to her through Ray. Ray was like, we need to find out where this video, what the source of this video. And so Meg is trying to find out, just looking at the camera angles, trying to figure out the type of camera, trying to get as much information as she can about the background. She's doing a whole investigation. And so Irene, who's Tara's mom, she'd been trying to get in contact with Tara all day and haven't been able to. So she actually just went to the office where she ran into Eric. And basically Irene was like, well, I've been trying to get in contact with her. What is going on? She's not answering her phone. What's going on? And he eventually comes clean. And of course she is furious, and she's hurt and upset. But she's still trying. She kind of reassured Eric that, this can be fixed and we're going to try to work this out. Even though she called him an idiot and a fool, she was going to talk to Tara and try to talk Tara into taking Eric back. And so she ends up leaving. Okay, so Vincent was supposed to be there when they went to trial. When I think his name is Connor. That's the guy, who had the tape. The tape was released. Vincent was supposed to be there, and Tara was supposed to be kind of backup counsel, but he was supposed to be lead on there. And so Tara gets to court, and she's trying to find out where Vincent is, and you're basically nowhere to be found. So she ends up having to try to represent the guy. I can't remember at what point Vincent walks in, but the thing about that trial is that when she walked in, she saw the woman who was screwing her fiance at the opposing counsel's table. So that threw her off. She's looking like it was kind of went in slow motion, and the lady flipped her hair, and I don't know if she actually did all that or if it was just all in her mind, but you can tell they kind of threw her off her game a little bit. It was like it was hard for her to focus, but in the end, they did win the injunction, and they were able to get the video taken down. Again, they still trying to figure out the source. So Meg actually was able to find out some things, and she found where it was filmed. It was like this local sex club. They had like hidden videos, hidden cameras all over the place. And they're pretty sure that the people attending these gatherings didn't know that they were being recorded. And so at this point, Connor's already told his wife. She's aware of, what's going on. She contacts, she comes down one day and Connor's gone. And so she goes to the computer and she looks up and she sees that a new video has been released. And so he's just having a time just dealing with the embarrassment because he is a public figure. And she said that she tried to talk to him, but so she called Tara, and Tara came over and tried, and they basically tried to talk to him to reassure him that things were going to be okay. So Tara basically goes back to the club to let them know that they know that they've been recording people illegally, and that if they continue to release videos regarding Connor, that they were going to basically open up an investigation on how their business practices, their clientele. I mean, just basically get all in their shit. And so you could tell that the guy he was kind of scared, like, oh, okay. So as far as we know, no additional videos were released. So after that, Kate goes to her parents' house, I guess for brunch or lunch or whatever, because she kind of put her mother off. She was supposed to meet her mom at some point, but she got sidetracked with the cases and just trying to get her mind right. So she goes to her mom's house to sit down to have lunch. And of course they know, the mom already knows. She told the dad, so everybody's aware of what went on, what's going on. So she's sitting down, and the mom is basically trying to convince Tara to give Eric another chance. People are allowed to make mistakes. Time heals everything. And she's basically saying, Mom, basically at that point, I think the wedding was like 2 weeks away. And she's like, okay, yeah, that may be true. Time heals things, but I'm not going to be over this in 2 weeks. And definitely not going to be over it enough to walk down the aisle and say, I do. And then the mom, she's really pushing for whatever reason for her to get back with Eric. And so it turns into a huge blow up. And basically, Tara basically said, I walked in on the man that I love, screwing somebody else, and he was basically loving it. That's basically paraphrasing what happened. So she storms out. She's extremely emotional because she feels like her mother is not listening to her. And so the dad, goes out behind her and hugs her. And then she has this whole this breakdown. He just hugged her. He didn't say anything. He just let her cry it out. And so she ends up going home. And Eric is on the front step. And she basically, she wasn't rude or nasty to him. It was just basically, she basically was like, it's done. It's over. And she walks in the house and closed the door. Actually, before that, what you see is after the incident, incident with, Tara finding out, you then see Eric with his father, who owns the firm that they both work for. And he's basically telling Eric that you need to fix this. I'm not going to be embarrassed and having to uninvite some of the most important people in the business, in town, or whatever, because you screwed up. You need to fix this. And so that's when, she got home and she saw him on the porch, and she basically was like, it's over. Like, there's really nothing to be said at this point. And so the next day you see her, she's at Vincent's house, and they briefly talked about his case, and she asked about his wife. And there's something going on with Vincent and his wife. But she asked about his wife, and he's like, oh, she's probably off doing Pilates, some such stuff. But they talked about the case, and she basically was exhausted and decided she was going to turn in for the evening. And so she went home, and of course, it's... the feeling is different. It's like the last time that was supposed to be her home with her husband. And, her wedding dress is still there. They still have the wedding, looming. So she's probably thinking about all of this stuff. And so she's sitting on the bed, and she pulls up a video that she recorded of him. I guess they were on vacation. And just really, they were at one point in time really happy. And so you could tell by her looking at the video that she may possibly be having second thoughts about not going through with the wedding. So, basically that was a recap of episode 1. Not too many things happened in this episode, but it was still a good episode. So, I am going to leave this here, and I will talk to you guys later.